Cu Chi had all sorts of flights going to and from Saigon, both helicopter and fixed wing. The next morning, I waited around the dirt airstrip for something going to Saigon. I got on a C-130 that had just dropped off supplies and was heading back to Saigon. The plane was Air Force and had 4 propeller engines with 2 sort of jet-fired engine boosters to get the aircraft off the ground by the end of the runway. I got into a boxcar-like setting with about 20 other guys. We had to sit on the floor and had a strap to hold onto, which went from one side of the boxcar interior to the other side. The aircraft got to one end of the dirt strip and opened the engines and jet things full blast and then let off the brakes, so it seemed. Anyone not holding onto the strap for dear life was thrown to the back of the boxcar along with rifles, packs, and other gear. The takeoff was like a blast in a rocket ship taking off about straight up. Loud with a lot of force. Geez, what noise and power. Once we were up and flying, the crew chief of the aircraft asked and checked if anyone was hit by a bullet. He said the aircraft took rounds flying in and now out. Everyone was okay, but there was a leak in the hydraulic system at the inside side of the boxcar, and he and another Air Force guy were repairing it. I was hoping it didn't have anything to do with the landing gear or the aircraft's major controls. We finally landed at Tan Son Nhut Air Base 3 miles from Saigon. I asked directions and took a bus into the city. I first wanted to get my sunglasses. My eyes were fairly good, but not 20. 20, which kept me out of flight school to become a helicopter pilot at Fort Rucker, Alabama. But lately, after being bounced around by the mortar attack on the bunker line, my eyes seemed to have gotten worse. My night vision seemed to be affected also. I took an eye exam and the doctor said that they would give me 2 pair of glasses. 1 pair of sunglasses for aviation and 1 pair of plain glasses, and that I could pick them up in about 2 hours. Fast work. So I decided to walk the streets of Saigon. While I was walking, there were 4 infantry fellows from the 25th Infantry Division arguing about wearing hats or not with 2 MPs. The infantry fellows were on the drunk side with muddy jungle fatigues and muddy boots on and M16 rifles. The MPs were in spotless uniforms with Colt 45s in their holsters. The argument got heated with swearing, and 2 of the infantry fellows pointed their weapons at the MPs. The MPs wisely jumped in their jeep and left. One does not want to argue with armed infantry just out of the field. Most Army personnel did not like MPs, and getting killed over not wearing hats or helmets was not a good idea. An armed drunk grunt, as we fondly called an infantryman, could be very dangerous. That was a close call for those MPs. The MPs must have been new guys. As I walked the streets, there were a lot of bars playing loud rock and roll music. Vietnamese girls would physically grab you and drag you into the bar, laughing with good humor. I let them drag me into a bar that was playing Beatles music. They sat me down at a table, and one of them sat on my lap and stuck a marijuana joint in my mouth, saying she was good at boom boom. The girls were pretty, and I was sure they were good at boom boom. It was nice to have a couple of beers and listen to the music, but I couldn't get too carried away as I had to pick up my glasses and get back to Cu Chi somehow. I definitely liked the bar, the music, and good company, and swore that I would get back to Saigon someday for some good times. It must be a pleasure to be stationed near Saigon, I thought. It wasn't like back home where one had to romance the girls for a long time. Here, they just grab you and that's that. Wow, how pleasant. I picked up my new glasses and 2 cases for them that I could put on my belt. I wore the sunglasses right away, and they were definitely different and nice. Everything seemed more defined. They took the glare out of the clouds and sun. I was told that my best bet to get back to Cu Chi would be to go to Hotel 3 and wait for a helicopter. Hotel 3 was not a hotel. H3 was a helicopter landing area that carried personnel to and from Saigon. Sort of like a taxi area, only airborne. Helicopters, mostly all Hueys, were landing and flying back out from there. When they land, just tell them where you're going, Cu Chi, Tay Ninh, Pu Loi, wherever, and if they are going there, they take you aboard. One could get all around Vietnam by hitchhiking on aircraft. No one asks for orders. Nice, fast, and simple. While I was waiting, one fellow told me about a very bad accident that happened there a few weeks ago. Apparently, as a fully loaded Huey, 6 passengers and 4 crew were lifting off the metal pad. One of the skids became stuck on the pad and caused the helicopter to flip on its side. As it did, the rotor blades hit the ground and tore the helicopter apart, and it immediately blew up into a huge fireball from the fuel. Everyone was burnt to death. Geez, I thought, what a tragedy. Just a little crazy thing like that could get one killed in a horrible way. After that, I always was aware at liftoff time from a metal pad that a skid could get caught. I mentioned that to many pilots as I flew as crew chief later. Lift straight up, don't try to slide sideways, I warned them. Soon, a Huey from Coochie came in and I let the crew chief know I was going to Coochie. It was a Little Bear Huey. That was a Huey company that did the resupply missions for the infantry and fire support artillery bases in the field. The Little Bears had machine guns on the sides to protect the helicopter on their missions. Their missions were usually much different than the assault helicopter company's missions. Assault helicopters' missions were done like a D-Day invasion, only on a smaller scale, by air only, with a lot of enemy firing at you in half the LZs you land in. But that's what assault helicopter companies do. That is our job. Anyway, the Little Bear Huey went straight up fairly quickly to a height of about 2,400 feet, supposedly out of accurate reach of a .30 caliber bullet. But the bullet could still hit. The ride back, thank goodness, was not a low-level flight dodging trees, but I still managed to feel dizzy and sick to my stomach with motion sickness, and I'm going to be a crew chief. I had a meeting with the company commander, a major, and he asked me why I wished to become a crew chief, and he indicated that it was a very dangerous job. But I would be getting extra hazardous duty pay and flight pay added to my regular pay, which at the time was about $250 a month. He said that Danny had checked my mechanic skill out and it was good, and I was to be checked out on the M60 machine gun while flying. I told him that I wanted to fight this war as best I could, and I figured being a crew chief for me was the way to do it. I also told him that the Army in war was like a family tradition, with my grandfather, uncles and dad being in their wars, and I figured that this was my war to fight in. He said great and shook hands with me and wished me good luck, and that was that. I met the crew chief whose helicopter I was going to take over. His tour was up and he was going home. He was wounded twice, but nothing really bad. He was a nice fellow and was glad he was going home. He said he was crewing about 7 months. Before that, he spent 5 months in maintenance. He said he liked crewing, but it wasn't for everyone. He said some guys get too shaken up by the constant combat and quit crewing and go back to maintenance. He said he didn't blame them. They were probably the smart guys. He laughed. He thought that anyone who wants to be a crew chief when he doesn't have to is a little on the nutty side. But flying combat is very exciting and exhilarating once you get used to being shot at almost every day, he said. You may see more combat and you will shoot more bullets than anyone else in Vietnam on a day-to-day basis, and you will see Vietnam like no one else can from the air. He showed me the helicopter logbook with the hours on it and when maintenance on various parts was needed. He said it was a good helicopter and it had a good crew. He wished me luck.